Let's go Dolphins! What if I told you that everything we feared about this team is starting to come true, and no one here seems willing to fix it? From confusing roster decisions to a locker room losing faith, the cracks are deeper than anyone imagined. Trust me, you'll want to hear every word of this. But before we begin, like this if you've experienced this team's ups and downs, because what's happening now could define the entire season. If possible, comment something like Dolphins need a new team. Now, let's get to the point. Alright, let's get right into it. The injury report ahead of Week 2 against the New England Patriots is alarming, and it's painting a grim picture. 8 players on the list. 8. Among them, James Daniels, already placed on IR. That's a huge blow to the offensive line, and let's not sugarcoat it. The replacements aren't giving us any reason to breathe easy. Austin Jackson is another key name on the report, a DNP this week, and while he hasn't been ruled out officially, Mike McDaniel is already preparing Larry Borom to take his place at right tackle. And honestly, that's terrifying. Borom had 69 snaps in the preseason, and despite PFF trying to polish his numbers, the eye test doesn't lie. He allowed a sack, got flagged 3 times, and was bullied consistently in joint practices. Now he's likely starting on the blind side of a left-handed quarterback. Next to him, Kean Smith, replacing Daniels at right guard. That's 2 unproven, unsteady guys guarding Tua's blind side. It's a recipe for disaster. Add in the fact that the Patriots have one of the best interior duos in the league, Christian Barmore and Milton Williams, and it gets even more nerve-wracking. And don't forget Harold Landry. If he suits up Sunday, he's going to be feasting on that right side. So here we are, Week 2, and the Dolphins' offensive line is already unraveling. The scary part? This unit was relatively solid in Week 1, but that was with Austin Jackson still in the mix. Now, with Borom and Smith stepping in, it's a whole new level of anxiety. And Tua? Let's be honest, he looked rattled in Week 1. Scared, panicky, like a quarterback who doesn't trust the guys protecting him. Can you blame him? Meanwhile, Darren Waller. What more is there to say about this guy? Probably never going to play a snap for Miami. Mike McDaniel practically admitted it this week, saying they're weighing whether the risk of putting him out there is too great for the rest of the season. The rest of the season. It's Week 2. This just goes back to the utter incompetence of Chris Greer. The man keeps signing broken toys. Will Fuller, OBJ, now Waller. He's collecting glass figurines instead of football players. Waller's not just unavailable, he's irrelevant. A waste of a roster spot. If I had it my way, I'd cut him today. I'd cut Julian Hill and Tanner Connor too while we're at it. Bring up Greg Dulcich from the practice squad. At least he showed promise in the preseason. At least he wants to play. This is the same story, Dolphins fans. We've seen it before. Greer's chasing names instead of production, and it's costing us depth, continuity, and wins. The Dolphins are about to face a New England team whose run defense looked like a brick wall last week, and we're doing it with a patched-up offensive line, a quarterback who's already spooked, and a tight end room that's one big ghost town. You tell me how that's supposed to work. Even the defense isn't exempt from scrutiny. Miami blitzed on nearly 50% of plays last week, most in the NFL, but their pressure rate was one of the worst. You can't send the house and not get home. If we do that against Drake May, we're leaving our secondary exposed, and that's not a matchup we want to test. Luckily, May's offensive line in New England is just as shaky as ours. They gave up pressure on nearly 36% of dropbacks last week. So, what needs to happen? Miami's front 4, Jalen Phillips, Bradley Chubb, Chop, and Zach Sealer have to create pressure without the blitz. That's the only way to stop the screen-heavy Josh McDaniels offense from chewing us up with short passes and backs out of the backfield. On the other side of the ball, Miami has to bring back the explosive plays. Where's the juice? Where's the firepower? Tua threw only 2 balls more than 20 yards downfield last week. 1 completion. 2 attempts. That's not what this offense is built for. Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle are game breakers. Let them run. Let them stretch the field. The Patriots gave up 9 receptions of 20-plus yards in Week 1. That was the worst in the league. If we can't take advantage of that with this receiving core, what are we even doing? The truth is, it's not just about surviving this week. It's about what this game means for the Miami Dolphins moving forward. Because if they lose, we're not just talking about another notch in the loss column. We're talking about a collapse in confidence, a fractured locker room, and a coaching staff on the edge. This team was built to contend, not to crumble in September. And yet here we are, already talking about potential staff changes, offensive line replacements, and whether our star quarterback can even trust the guys in front of him. And look, let's be honest, this offensive strategy is walking a dangerous tightrope. If Miami can't establish the run game early, and I mean really early, it's going to be a long afternoon. Because the Patriots' front 7, they aren't just good, they're disciplined. They shut down the Raiders' ground game in Week 1, allowing just 2.3 yards per carry, and had the highest stuff percentage in the league. Now imagine Kean Smith and Larry Borom trying to hold their own against that. It's not exactly a fair fight. So what do you do if you're Mike McDaniel? Do you simplify the game plan? Do you adjust for the offensive line's weaknesses? Because make no mistake, if Tua has to drop back 35 plus times and rely on deep reads without reliable pass protection, he's going to get hit hard and often. This is where coaching earns its money. Can McDaniel put together a game plan that hides his weaknesses and plays to his strengths? Because right now, the cracks are showing, and they're growing bigger by the day. And speaking of cracks, let's talk about the locker room dynamic. You think the players aren't noticing the constant stream of injuries and bust free agent signings? They are. This isn't just a fan complaint. This stuff matters. Darren Waller was supposed to be a key part of this offense. Instead, he's a running joke. When your locker room sees a guy like Waller collecting checks and never suiting up, it starts to wear on morale. Especially when younger guys, hungry guys, like Greg Dulcich are putting in work on the practice squad and not getting the call up. This is why Greer's name keeps coming up. He's not just failing to build a complete roster, he's actively making it harder for the team to function. And you can bet the players see it. They see the offensive line isn't deep enough. They see the defensive secondary being left out to dry because the front seven can't generate pressure without blitzing. They see the tight end room being used as a graveyard for past their prime names. This is bigger than just play calling. It's about vision. And Greer's vision? It's blurred. It's dated. And it's putting the entire season at risk. And yet, even with all of that, the opportunity is still there. The AFC East isn't invincible. The Patriots are not the dynasty they once were. The Bills can be beaten. The Jets? Still figuring things out. If Miami can get its act together, there's still time to turn this season around. But it has to start now. Not next week. Not against Buffalo. This Sunday, in Hard Rock Stadium. Because here's what I'll say. If the Dolphins manage to run the football, control the clock, and hit just a few explosive plays downfield, they can win this game. If the defensive front shows up and generates pressure with just 4, they can neutralize Drake May before he gets comfortable. But none of that happens if the O-line doesn't hold. None of that matters if Tua continues to play scared. He needs to settle down, stand tall, and deliver. And McDaniel needs to call the game like he believes in him. So the pressure is on. This is the most important Week 2 game in recent Dolphins memory, and how this team responds will tell us everything we need to know about their future. Not just this season, but the entire direction of this franchise. Are they contenders, or just pretenders? You tell me, Dolphins fans, are you still riding with this team? Do you believe they can pull it together and make a real push, or is it time for a reset at the top? Drop your comments below, and if you're new here, make sure to hit that subscribe button and like the video. It really helps get the word out to more die-hard Dolphins fans. Click one of the videos on screen to keep the conversation going. Let's ride this wave together. Go Dolphins!